Hey YNR fans! Waving hand, welcome to YNR Trends, your go-to spot for the juiciest Young and the Restless updates, shocking spoilers, and all the drama you can't stop talking about. From surprise returns to scandalous twists, we break it all down for you, every day. So grab your coffee, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive right into Genoa City's hottest gossip. Summer had never felt so overwhelmed. The evening at the Abbott mansion had been meant to be calm, just a family dinner with Harrison playing in the living room while Kyle and Jack discussed business in the study. But Claire's arrival had changed everything. There was a storm brewing inside of her, the kind of rage that could no longer be hidden under polite smiles and soft words. Claire had tried to play the role of the reformed woman, someone who was determined to rebuild trust after the horrors of her past, but underneath, jealousy and resentment churned. The sight of Summer so close to Kyle, laughing with Harrison, looking like the perfect picture of family, was unbearable to Claire. It made her feel like she was on the outside of something she would never truly be allowed into, no matter how hard she tried. Every giggle from Summer felt like mockery, every glance from Kyle toward his wife like a dagger in Claire's chest. She told herself to calm down, that she wasn't going to let emotions dictate her actions again, but then Summer turned and placed a soft kiss on Kyle's cheek, and the mask slipped. Claire's pulse raced, and before she even realized it, her feet were carrying her across the room. Summer barely had time to register the intensity in Claire's eyes before a sharp blow connected with her temple. The sound was sickening, flesh against flesh, a thud of body collapsing to the hardwood floor. Summer let out a gasp that never fully formed into a scream before her world went black, her body going limp as she crumpled unconscious at Claire's feet. For a moment, silence ruled the room. Claire's chest heaved as she stood over Summer, her hands trembling, unsure whether it was from adrenaline or guilt. Harrison, who had been building towers with his blocks just feet away, looked up. At first, confusion flickered in his innocent eyes, but then he saw Summer lying so still, and panic struck him like lightning. His lips trembled, his chest tightened, and tears welled up until they spilled over. "Mommy! Mommy, wake up!" Harrison cried, his small voice breaking in terror. He rushed to Summer's side, tugging at her arm, shaking her gently, his little body overwhelmed with fear. Claire stepped back, the reality of what she had done crashing into her. Harrison's sobs pierced the room, each one slicing into her conscience. She hadn't thought of him, hadn't thought what her outburst would mean for the child who adored Summer like a mother. Harrison's wails grew louder, his voice high and broken. "Daddy! Daddy, help! Mommy's not moving!" The desperation in his tone made Claire freeze, her face pale, her body rooted to the floor as if the house itself were holding her prisoner. In the study, Kyle's head jerked up at the sound of his son's cries. The panic in Harrison's voice was unlike anything he had ever heard before, filled with a raw terror that no parent could ignore. Kyle dropped the papers he had been holding and sprinted toward the living room, Jack following close behind. The moment Kyle's eyes fell on Summer lying unconscious on the ground, his heart nearly stopped. He dropped to his knees beside her, his hands trembling as he brushed her hair back from her face. "Summer! Summer, wake up!" His voice cracked with fear, his world narrowing down to the sight of her motionless body. Harrison clung to his father's arm, sobbing uncontrollably. "Daddy, she won't wake up. Please, please make her wake up." His words came out in broken gasps, his cheeks wet with tears, his little body shaking. Kyle pulled him close with one arm while desperately trying to rouse Summer with the other. "It's okay, buddy, I've got her. She's going to be okay. Daddy's here." But the fear in Kyle's own eyes betrayed the reassurance in his voice. Jack crouched down beside them, his face grim, his mind racing with questions. Then his gaze shifted to Claire, who stood frozen in place, her fists clenched at her sides, her expression a twisted mixture of defiance and regret. "Claire," Jack's voice was low, dangerous, filled with disappointment and disbelief. "What did you do?" Claire opened her mouth, but no words came out. She tried to swallow the lump in her throat, but all she managed was a whisper, "I didn't mean to, it just happened." She kept, but Jack cut her off, his tone sharp. "You attacked her. My grandson had to watch you hurt the woman he calls his mother." His eyes narrowed, the weight of his anger almost crushing. Claire felt small under his stare, her shoulders trembling. Kyle didn't even look at her. His entire focus was on Summer and Harrison. "Call 911, he barked, his voice sharp with urgency. Jack immediately pulled his phone from his pocket, his hand steady despite the fury running through him. Harrison buried his face in Kyle's chest, his sobs muffled but still heartbreaking. Kyle kissed the top of his son's head, whispering, "I've got you, buddy, I've got you. Mommy's strong. She's going to wake up." He kept repeating it, more for himself than for Harrison, as he gently stroked Summer's face. Claire took a shaky step forward, as if she wanted to explain, maybe even help, but Kyle shot her a look so venomous it froze her in her tracks. His jaw was clenched, his eyes burning with fury. "Stay back," he growled. "Don't you dare come near her or my son." The venom in his tone made Claire flinch. For the first time, she saw the full consequences of her actions, not just in Summer lying unconscious, but in the way Harrison clung to his father, terrified, broken, inconsolable. She had taken from him a sense of safety, shattered his trust, and that realization crushed her. Harrison whimpered again, his small hands clutching Kyle's shirt tightly. "Daddy, don't let her die. Please don't let Mommy die." The words, so pure and desperate, ripped through Kyle's heart. He kissed his son's hair, whispering shakily, "She won't, Harrison. I promise, she won't." But deep inside, he was terrified, because Summer still wasn't moving. The emotional landscape of the young and the restless is often painted in broad, dramatic strokes, a necessary consequence of its daily storytelling format. Yet, every so often, a moment arrives that transcends the typical machinations of business takeovers, romantic betrayals, and long-buried secrets. These are the moments that strip characters bare, revealing the raw, unvarnished humanity beneath the powerful suits and meticulously applied makeup. The scene in which Nicholas Newman bursts into tears upon the staggering, life-altering realization that Audra is his daughter is one such moment. It is a masterclass in emotional payoff, a tectonic shift in the narrative foundation of multiple characters, and a catalyst that redefines the very concept of family for the Newmans. This moment is not merely a plot point, it is the culmination of a subtle, psychological unraveling, the shattering of a long-held identity, and the birth of a new, overwhelming paternal imperative that immediately manifests in his vow to find her mother, a vow that echoes with the weight of past failures and the desperate hope for redemption. To fully appreciate the cataclysmic nature of Nicholas's breakdown, one must first understand the intricate web of circumstances that led him to this precipice. For months, even years, the truth about Audra's parentage has been a specter lurking in the shadows of Genoa City, known to a select few but hidden from the one man it would impact most. This secrecy is the essential fuel for the emotional fire. Nicholas, the often privileged son of Victor and Nikki Newman, has lived a life marked by both great fortune and profound personal tragedy. He has experienced loss, betrayal, and the complex burden of his family name. Yet, through it all, his understanding of himself as a father was confined to his known children, Noah, Summer, and Christian. The possibility of another child, a daughter conceived in a forgotten moment of passion and never acknowledged, was entirely absent from his self-concept. Audra, meanwhile, entered his orbit as a formidable, ambitious, and somewhat enigmatic player in the corporate world. Their relationship was adversarial, transactional, and fraught with power struggles, all while the audience, and a few key characters, understood the cruel irony that underpinned every heated exchange. This was a father and daughter, locked in a battle devoid of the fundamental recognition that should have defined their connection. The revelation itself is never a simple matter of being told a fact. In soap opera storytelling, the truth must be uncovered in a manner that maximizes its dramatic impact. For Nicholas, the realization likely dawned not as a single piece of information, but as a cascade of clues, inconsistencies, and half-remembered details that suddenly coalesced into an inescapable, horrifying, and beautiful truth. Perhaps it was a comment about her past, a physical mannerism that mirrored his own or that of a former lover, a date that aligned with a long-ago encounter, or finally, the courageous or perhaps spiteful confession from another party who could no longer bear the weight of the secret. However it arrived, the moment of understanding would have been preceded by a period of cognitive dissonance, a subconscious grappling with a reality his conscious mind refused to accept. This psychological groundwork is what makes the eventual breakdown so powerful. It is the bursting of a dam that has been straining under immense, unrecognized pressure. When the truth finally crashes over him, the reaction is not one of quiet acceptance or joyful surprise. It is a torrential downpour of emotion, a storm of conflicting feelings that finds its physical expression in tears. These are not the gentle tears of a sentimental moment, they are the gut-wrenching, body-shaking sobs of a man whose entire world has just been irrevocably rearranged. In this raw display, we see the collapse of the Nicholas Newman the world knows, the executive, the brother, the son, the sometimes rogue, and the emergence of something more primal, a father who has failed before he even began. The tears are for the lost years, the birthdays, the graduations, the heartbreaks he could have soothed, and the milestones he will never get back. They are tears of profound guilt, the immediate and crushing realization that he was an absent father, unaware of his own child's existence while she navigated a world that is often cruel and unforgiving. He weeps for the little girl he never knew to protect, for the woman who had to fight her way to where she is without the safety net of his name or his resources. This guilt is inextricably linked to the nature of their previous interactions. Every sharp word exchanged, every manipulative business tactic employed, every moment he saw her as an obstacle or a pawn and not as his own flesh and blood, now plays back in his mind with excruciating clarity. The memory of wielding his power against her, the very power that should have been used to shield her, becomes a source of immense shame. His tears are an apology for all of it, a nonverbal plea for forgiveness for the unforgivable sin of ignorance. This emotional response is a testament to the core of goodness that, despite his many flaws, defines Nicholas Newman. He is not a man who would willingly abandon his child. The pain stems from the fact that he did so unintentionally, and the weight of that accidental neglect is perhaps even heavier than if it had been a conscious choice, for it highlights a lapse in his very understanding of his own life's narrative. From the ashes of this devastating realization rises a new, singular purpose, the vow to find Audra's mother. This vow is far more than a simple plot device to introduce a new character or revisit an old one, it is the essential next step in Nicholas's psychological and emotional journey. It is his path to redemption, not just in Audra's eyes, but in his own. Finding her mother is the first tangible act of fatherhood he can perform for her. It is an attempt to answer the questions that have undoubtedly haunted Audra her entire life, to provide her with a complete origin story, and to piece together the broken fragments of her own identity. He understands that this is something only he can do, he is the link to that past, the other half of the equation that created her. By seeking out her mother, he is actively building a foundation for his daughter, attempting to give her a sense of history and belonging that was stolen from them both. Furthermore, this vow is deeply personal for Nicholas. It is a journey back into his own past, a confrontation with a chapter of his life he likely had closed forever. Who is this woman? Was their encounter a meaningful one, or a fleeting moment lost to time? Was she aware she was carrying his child? Did she try to tell him? The questions multiply, each one carrying its own potential for pain or absolution. Finding her is a way for Nicholas to reclaim control over a narrative that has been spinning without his knowledge. It allows him to seek his own answers, to understand his role in this hidden history, and to perhaps assuage his own guilt by discovering the circumstances that led to the secret being kept from him in the first place. The vow is as much about healing his own shattered sense of reality as it is about providing for Audra. The implications of this revelation and Nicholas's subsequent vow ripple outwards, touching every corner of the Newman family constellation. Victor Newman, the patriarch who values family above all else yet has orchestrated more deceptions than any other, is faced with a new grandchild whose existence was hidden. His reaction will be a complex blend of dynastic calculation, genuine familial concern, and perhaps a flicker of self-recognition, seeing in his son's situation a reflection of his own complicated history with lost and found children. Nikki Newman's heart will break for her son's pain and swell with the prospect of a new granddaughter, yet she will also be fiercely protective, questioning Audra's motives and the potential for disruption in their tightly knit, yet fragile, family unit. The reactions of Nicholas's siblings, Victoria, Adam, and Abby, will vary from support to skepticism, each filtering the news through their own unique and often fraught relationships with their father and with the concept of new family members emerging from the shadows. Most significantly, this changes everything for Audra. Her entire life has been a quest for power, security, and respect, driven by what audiences can now infer was a deep-seated need to fill a void, to prove her worth in a world that never gave her a soft place to land. The knowledge that her biological father is Nicholas Newman, a scion of the most powerful family in Genoa City, is the ultimate answer to the question of her identity, yet it is also the ultimate complication. Does she want his love, or his empire? Can she separate the two? Will she allow herself to be vulnerable enough to accept the father she never had, or will years of self-reliance and hardened ambition make it impossible to trust this new dynamic? Her walls, built so high and so strong out of necessity, will not crumble easily. Nicholas's tears may be the first step, but her forgiveness and acceptance will be a long and arduous negotiation. In the end, the moment Nicholas Newman bursts into tears upon learning Audra is his daughter is the point at which a secret ceases to be a plot mechanism and becomes a human experience. It is a beautifully acted, profoundly written exploration of unintended consequences, latent paternal instinct, and the relentless pursuit of redemption. His immediate vow to find her mother is the natural extension of that emotion, a promise born of guilt, fueled by love, and dedicated to the ideal of making whole what was broken. It sets into motion a journey that is both outward, into the world to find a woman from his past, and inward, into the deepest recesses of his own heart to discover what kind of man, and what kind of father, he truly is. This moment ensures that the story of the Newmans will not just be about corporate battles and romantic entanglements, but about the foundational, messy, and ultimately powerful bonds of family, forged not only in legacy but in truth, no matter how painful that truth may be to finally uncover.